Yes, of course, my last video was an April Fool's video. You'd have to be pretty not to realise that, I think, although last year people didn't peg it, so go figure.
This episode is brought to you by Marantz Model 40N, ISA's Smart Amplifier of the Year. The most musical sound, simplified.
Welcome back, everybody. Today I want to explain the origin of the graphs that I showed in my April Fool's video, because there is a serious and informative story behind those two frequency response graphs. Basically, I came back from Portugal last week to have the stitches out of my eye. That procedure, thankfully, went very well. But if you've ever had it done or ever need to have it done, yeah, there's going to be a doctor with a very sharp scalpel just pegging away at the stitches in your eye, a bit like snapping a cable tie with a knife. You can hear them pop. Anyway, so I came back from Portugal and I'm sitting in this room and I'm listening to music through the Klipsch loudspeakers. I was playing that new Steven Wilson box set called Intrigue, and some electronic music from, I don't know how you say his name, is it Svreka? Vreka? I don't even know how you say it, but anyway, so I was sitting here and thinking, the bass doesn't sound right. Now, bear in mind, I've just spent the last couple of months in Portugal in a much bigger room where I think the bass response of the loudspeakers in that room is much better. Because obviously, as we know, as I keep banging on about, what we hear in the listening seat is a combination of the speakers and the room and the way that they interface together. And generally speaking, we're hearing more room than speakers. So I knew when I was sat here early, was it this week or the end of last week? Yeah, end of last week or over the weekend, that I was hearing more of the room, thinking, yeah, the bass does not sound good at all. So what I did was I unpacked my UMIC 1 microphone, put it at the listening position here, and then I connected it to my laptop and connected the laptop to my hi-fi system over USB, and I took a Room EQ Wizard measurement. And it was not good. I had a huge peak at 40 hertz. Now, I've always known I have had a bass peak in this room at around 35 to 40 hertz. And if you're thinking, but John, your room is fully acoustically treated, I would remind you, it's not fully as in the entire frequency range. It is not treated in the bass. It would involve a huge amount of bass traps in this room, probably in this corner and that corner. Remember a few years ago I had some GIK bass traps. I had 6 of them in here and they were butt ugly and they took up loads of space, and that's why I kind of got rid of them. I gave them away, I think on eBay or to one of my patrons. I can't remember now, but I just gave them away. Anyway, this room is not treated for bass. And I also had another peak in that graph at 140 hertz. So I had 2 bass issues that I needed to tackle in this room. I don't have the physical mass in this space to do it, so I knew that I had to really solve it with DSP. And that means room correction software. Now, I left the NAD M23 in Portugal, so I didn't have it and its inbuilt DIRAC available to me. I've also still got the NAD C3050LE in my cellar, which I could have used. Again, it also has DIRAC in it. But I didn't. I thought, no, I'm always using DIRAC. Let's go over to a different system. One that I'm actually, I think, more comfortable setting up myself. And that's Room Perfect, which is baked into a couple of Lyngdorf amplifiers that I have here. Now I've covered the TDAI-1120 before. That's the smaller shoebox Kallax-Fi type amplifier. I do have the TDAI-3400 here as well. That's the bigger full width Lyngdorf that also has Room Perfect, room correction baked into it. So I pulled out the bigger one. I thought, why not use the bigger one? Because what I can do is I can use it as a preamplifier with balanced connections to the NAD M23 power amplifier, which I really love the sound of. And that's one of the benefits of the bigger Lyngdorf. It has balanced outputs. So I could still keep the NAD in place. So effectively, I was using the Lyngdorf as a preamplifier. And then all the streaming comes into it, and I connected my TV using Toslink because I don't have the new HDMI module yet. But I want to get that actually, because that would really ice this cake. But anyway, so I had that as the digital preamplifier, the NAD as the power amplifier driving the Klipsch Forte IV loudspeakers, and I ran Room Perfect. And Room Perfect is, for me, easier to use than Dirac because it asks you to take one measurement at the listening position here. They call it the focus position. But then the subsequent measurements don't have to be sort of rear left, rear right, and then, I did that the wrong way around, and then front left and front right. They don't have to be that at all. They can be random positions in the room. Now, you might be skeptical because what goes on is that the microphone is placed there and then the Room Perfect software generates some very strange noises. And you think, well, how can this possibly work? But it takes an acoustical map of the room by you moving it around to random positions and then applies its own correction. And this, for me, I think is the beauty of Room Perfect compared to Dirac, in that it doesn't ask me to make any decisions about the correction curve. It just gives you a one and done solution. So once I'd set up Room Perfect and installed the acoustic map of this room into the TDAI-3400, I played some music and I thought, yeah, that does sound a bit better in the bass, but I wanted to be sure. So what I did is I set up the microphone again, not the Room Perfect microphone. That's a different kind of microphone because that's an analog that goes straight into the front of this Lyngdorf unit. What I did is I pulled out my UMIC 1 microphone, different one, and again connected that to my laptop running RU, and then the laptop connected to the USB input on the back of the TDAI-3400. And I took two room measurements, basically with Room Perfect on and with Room Perfect off. Now the Room Perfect off measurement showed me, as I had before, a big peak at 40 Hertz and a big peak at 140 Hertz. And then what I did is I engaged the focus mode of Room Perfect and I took another Room EQ Wizard measurement. And yeah, the bass peaks had gone. And I got a much, much smoother bass response in the room. And you can see from the graph that actually Room Perfect does make some small changes to the other areas of the frequency range all the way up to 20K. But crucially, it doesn't fundamentally alter the character of the speaker, because I think the Klipsch in this room have quite a funky frequency response. Now, they do things that cannot be captured by the frequency response graph. Namely, they are exceptionally dynamic and exciting. And I don't know of any measurement really that can capture macro and micro dynamics. And I'm not sure if any loudspeaker engineer on the planet has cracked that nut yet. So we have to be very careful with, just looking at the frequency response and going, "Boah, that's no good." Because yeah, the frequency response of these Klipsch is a bit funky in this room, but they sound so exciting and they make music sound so alive. I often use the word avidity. They have great avidity. But the great thing about the Room Perfect solution is that it had solved my bass problem in this room with very little effort. And the amplifier also has analog inputs on the back, to which I connected a Cambridge Audio Alva TT2 running line out, so I could have my turntable also room corrected. And I guess my point today, this is not a review of the Lyngdorf, the big Lyngdorf amplifier, not at all. If you were hoping for that, I'm very sorry, not giving that at all. What I wanted to kind of make the point of today is that room correction software and DSP is excellent, generally speaking, at solving bass problems in a room. And you're probably listening in a small room. And if you have a small room, you are guaranteed to have bass problems in that room because they are mathematically baked into the room's dimensions. So DSP, the power of DSP, room correction software like Dirac, and in this case today, like Room Perfect, they can help you deal with those bass problems far more, I won't say more effectively than physical bass traps or bass absorbers, because that's not necessarily the case. I don't know about that. But room correction software means you don't have to have those in your room. You don't have to have these kind of ugly big things in your room. And I gotta say, yeah, they are ugly. And I know that most people would never, I guess, accommodate all the kind of the mid-range and high frequency treatments that I've got in this room. So big bass traps, forget it. I mean, I'm happy to accommodate this stuff or have this stuff here, but big bass traps, no. So even for me, with a room treated to bring its RT60, its reverb time, close to 200 milliseconds between 300 hertz and 4 kilohertz, this is something I've been speaking about a lot in the last few weeks, but even though I've got all this here, I still need to use room correction software with some speakers, especially speakers that put out a lot of low frequency energy, like these Klipsch behind me. So, I hope you found this video either informative or entertaining. I hope it explains the graphs that were featured in my rather silly April Fool's video. So if you dig all of that, then please give this video a like down below. If you like my attitude towards room acoustics, then please consider subscribing to this channel. And as always, thank you ever so much for watching.